My beloved child. Stop what you're doing. This cannot wait until later. Right now, at this exact moment, someone is praying for you. Not a general prayer. Not a vague hope. A specific, trembling prayer, with your face in their mind. They don't know your name yet. But they know exactly what your absence feels like. I need you to hear me clearly today. This is not another soft, comforting video. This is urgent. Because while you have been scrolling, working, surviving your days, someone has been on their knees, or in their car, or lying awake at 2 a.m. asking me for you. I do not ignore prayers like that, my child. I am moving on it right now. And I needed you to know, before the day went any further. Let me explain exactly what this means, and why I couldn't wait until tomorrow to tell you. Prayers like this one don't happen randomly, my child. They rise when a heart finally reaches the end of trying to force love on its own. When someone stops manufacturing connection, and simply asks me for the real thing instead. That is precisely the kind of prayer I heard for you today. Not desperate in a fearful way. Desperate in a surrendered way. The most powerful kind there is. Why this found you today? You could have opened 100 other things today. 100 other distractions. But you are here. Right now. Hearing this. That is not chance, my child. I do not let urgent messages land on the wrong person. If this found you, it is because it was meant to find you. Somewhere, right now, a heart is praying words shaped exactly like your story. God, whoever they are, wherever they are, let them know they're not forgotten. I heard it. And I am telling you now. The prayer I heard. Let me tell you exactly what I heard. Not word for word. But close enough that you'll recognize the shape of it. I don't even know their name yet. But I know I'm ready. I know I've done the healing you asked me to do. Please, let them feel this prayer, even from here. That prayer was not casual, my child. It was costly. It came from someone who has waited, just as long as you have. Who has cried, just as many nights as you have. I do not send prayers like that, into empty air. I am answering it, starting today. I want you to notice something, my child, before we go further. Every prayer I've ever answered this way, started the exact same way yours is starting now. Quietly. Honestly. Without an audience. The person praying for you right now doesn't know their prayer is being broadcast anywhere. They simply asked, in private, and I heard it in full. That is enough, my child. I don't need grand gestures to move. I only need honesty. A story, the soldier's prayer. Let me tell you about a man we'll call Ethan. He served overseas for 2 long deployments. Nights that stretched into fear, and days that blurred into exhaustion. He told me, one quiet night on watch. I don't know if I'll make it home. But if I do, let there be someone waiting who actually sees me. Not the uniform. Me. I heard that prayer, the same night I heard the whisper with your name in it. He came home, eventually. Different, in ways only he understood. Struggling to explain his nights, to people who'd never lived them. He nearly gave up on being known that deeply by anyone. What happened next? A support group, for veterans and their families, met at a small community center near his home. He almost didn't go. He sat in his car for 10 minutes, deciding whether to walk in at all. Inside, a woman named Claire volunteered there weekly. Her brother had served 2 years earlier. She understood the silence in a soldier's eyes better than most people ever could. She wasn't looking for romance. She was looking for a way to honor her brother's service. They spoke for 20 minutes that first night. Ethan told me later, it was the first conversation where he didn't feel the need to explain himself. 16 months later, he stood in front of Claire, in that same community center, and finished the prayer he'd prayed, on a night he thought he might not survive. This is happening right now. Ethan's prayer took years to answer. But it started the exact moment he prayed it. I did not wait until he came home to begin working. I began moving people, timing, circumstances, the same night he whispered it. The same is true for you, my child. The prayer being prayed for you right now is not the beginning of your story. It is the moment. I begin visibly moving the pieces you'll see later. Something is happening right now, even though you cannot see it yet. A second story, the single mother's prayer. Let me tell you about a woman we'll call Renee. Raising 2 children alone, after a marriage that ended in ways she never saw coming. She told her closest friend, "I don't have room in my life for love anymore. I barely have room to breathe." But late one night, after both kids were finally asleep, she prayed anyway, quietly. "God, not for me. For them. Let them see what real love looks like someday. I've stopped believing it's for me. But let them see it." I heard that prayer differently than most. Because she wasn't even praying for herself anymore. I answer prayers like that, with extra tenderness, my child. Renee's answer. 2 years later, a man named Marcus, a different Marcus than you may know from other messages, began coaching her son's youth team. He'd lost his own father young, and understood exactly what it meant to show up for kids who needed a steady presence. He wasn't looking for a relationship either. He was simply showing up, week after week, for boys who needed him. Renee noticed, slowly, how her son changed, how he started standing a little taller. She thanked Marcus one evening after practice, meaning only to say thank you. That thank you became a conversation. That conversation became dinner, months later, once trust had quietly built between them. Renee told me, eventually, that she'd stopped praying for herself, and I had answered anyway. That is how I work, my child. I hear the prayers you think are too small, or not about you, or too late to matter. The doctor's quiet prayer. Let me tell you about a woman we'll call Dana. A surgeon, brilliant at her work, exhausted in everything else. She had built a career people admired. And a personal life that felt, to her, embarrassingly empty. Every relationship she'd tried, ended the same way. Someone intimidated by her hours. Someone unwilling to share her calling. She stopped explaining herself to dates who couldn't understand it. One night, after a difficult surgery, she sat alone in the hospital chapel, still in her scrubs. She wasn't religious in any formal way. But she prayed anyway, quietly, exhausted. If there's someone who could actually handle this life, please stop hiding them from me. I don't have the energy to keep guessing. I heard that prayer the way I hear every honest exhaustion. Not polished. Desperate, in the best way a prayer can be. Dana's answer. 8 months later, a new anesthesiologist joined her hospital. His name was Samuel. He, too, had built a life around long hours and demanding calls. He understood, without needing it explained, exactly what her schedule cost her socially. They worked together on a difficult case one exhausting week, and found, without planning it, that they simply worked well as a team. Not romantically, at first. Just efficiently, respectfully. Dana told me later, the ease of it caught her off guard. For the first time, she wasn't managing someone else's insecurity about her career. She was simply being herself, fully, and it was enough. 18 months after that first difficult case together, Samuel proposed in the same hospital chapel where she'd once prayed alone in her scrubs. Dana told me she finally understood. I hadn't been hiding anyone from her. I had simply been finishing his training first. A fourth story, the teacher who stayed late. One more, my child, before we continue. Her name was Grace, and she taught at a small school, in a town most people never heard of. She loved her students fiercely. But every evening, she drove home to an apartment that felt quieter than she could explain to anyone. She had prayed for years, in the ordinary way most people do, hopeful, then discouraged, then hopeful again. One evening, grading papers long after the other teachers had gone home, she prayed without ceremony, simply tired. God, I'm not even asking for much anymore. Just someone who stays, the way I keep staying for these kids. Someone who doesn't leave when things get quiet. I heard that prayer, the plain honesty of it, the same way I hear every tired heart that still hasn't given up completely. A new custodian started at the school that winter, a quiet man named Tomas, who'd moved to town for a fresh start after a hard divorce. He noticed Grace was often the last car in the parking lot. One evening he knocked gently, just to say the building would be locking soon. They started talking, briefly, most evenings after that. Nothing dramatic. Just consistency. Just someone who noticed she stayed, and stayed near her too. A year later, Grace told me she'd finally understood her own prayer. She hadn't asked for excitement. She'd asked for someone who stays. And I had sent her exactly that, in a man most people walked past without noticing. The firefighter's prayer. One more story, my child, before we move forward. His name was Cole, a firefighter for over a decade, used to running toward danger while everyone else ran away from it. He'd seen enough loss on the job, to make him cautious with his own heart, guarding it the way he guarded a burning building's exits. He dated occasionally, but never let it go far. Always bracing for something to go wrong, the way things sometimes did at work. One night, after a particularly hard call, he sat in the station's kitchen alone, unable to sleep. He prayed simply, exhausted from the weight of the day. God, I give everything to this job. I don't have anything left over to chase love with. If it's real, you're going to have to bring it to me. I heard that prayer, the surrender in it, the same way I hear every tired heart that finally stops trying to control the outcome. A paramedic named Sophie began working alongside his crew shortly after, on a rotation that brought their teams together regularly. She'd seen the same hard calls he had, understood the same silence afterward. Neither one performed for the other. They simply worked, side by side, through hard nights, until trust built itself without either one forcing it. 2 years later, Cole told me he'd stopped bracing for something to go wrong, because for the first time, nothing did. The artist who almost gave up. One final story, my child, before we move into the second half of this message. Her name was Isabel, a painter who had spent a decade chasing recognition for her work, moving from city to city wherever a gallery would take her. Every move meant starting over socially, again and again, until she stopped bothering to make close friends, let alone imagine falling in love. She told her mother, on a rare phone call home, "I think I've just accepted this is the trade-off. The art, or the life. I chose the art." But that night, alone in a small rented studio, she painted late into the night and prayed without meaning to, brush still in her hand. "God, I'm not asking you to choose for me. I'm asking you to show me it doesn't have to be a choice at all." I heard that prayer, the quiet defiance in it, the refusal to fully accept a smaller life than the one she actually wanted. A gallery owner named Theo, in the next city she moved to, noticed her work before he ever noticed her. He reached out about featuring her paintings, and in the months of preparing the show together, something else quietly began building alongside the professional relationship. Isabel told me, once the show finally opened, that she'd stopped believing she had to choose between her calling and her heart. I had never asked her to choose. She had simply forgotten, for a while, that I don't deal in trade-offs like that, my child. I deal in fullness. Why the weight feels so heavy? I know this waiting has felt heavier than you've said out loud. I know you've wondered, more than once, if you're the exception to every promise you've read. You are not the exception, my child. Not to Ethan's story. Not to Renee's. Not to yours. The wait is not punishment. It never has been. But I will not pretend it costs you nothing. Every quiet night is real. Every unanswered question is real. I see all of it, my child. I have never once looked away. Ethan's wait looked like deployments and silence. Renee's wait looked like exhaustion and single motherhood. Dana's wait looked like a career people admired, and a home that felt empty. Whatever shape your wait takes, my child, it has its own name and face to me, just as clearly as theirs did. The workshop continues. While you wait, I am not wasting a single day of it. I am doing in you, what I did in Ethan before Claire. What I did in Renee before Marcus. Healing what a rushed love would have broken. Teaching you what peace feels like, so you'll recognize its absence instantly, next time it's missing. This is not a wasteland, my child. It is a workshop. And the prayer being prayed for you right now, is proof the workshop is nearly finished. I want you to consider what that actually means, my child. Nearly finished does not mean unfinished forever. It means the final pieces are being set into place, right now, while you read this. Ethan didn't see his healing happening in real time either. Neither did Renee, or Dana, or Grace, or Cole. They only recognized it, looking back, once the answer had already arrived. You are living inside that same process right now, even if you can't feel it moving yet. Trust the parts you cannot see. They are the parts doing the most important work. Sign 1, the sudden peace. Let me tell you the signs that this prayer is closer to becoming visible than you think. First sign, sudden, unexplainable peace. A calm that doesn't match your circumstances at all. Ethan felt it, oddly, the week before that support group meeting. Renee felt it the same week Marcus started coaching her son's team. Dana felt it, oddly, the same week Samuel joined her hospital, though she couldn't explain why at the time. Grace felt it the winter Tomas started at her school, a quiet settling she mistook for simple tiredness. Cole felt it, unexpectedly, the same week Sophie's rotation began overlapping with his cruise. Isabel felt it too, oddly, the same week Theo first reached out about the gallery show. If peace has visited you lately, without a clear reason, that is not random, my child. That is the first quiet knock. Before the door swings open. Sign 2, the lifting weight. Second sign, a weight lifting, that you didn't even fully realize you've been carrying. Old resentment, old grief, old disappointment, quietly losing its grip on you. Renee stopped flinching at the word marriage, after years of it stinging. Ethan stopped bracing every time someone asked about his service. Dana stopped assuming every new colleague would eventually resent her hours. Grace stopped believing that staying late meant staying alone forever. That lifting is not accidental, my child. I do not send new love into a heart still carrying old weight. So when the weight lifts faster than expected, I am making room. Sign 3, the stubborn hope. Third sign, a hope that keeps rising, no matter how many times you try to bury it. You tell yourself not to expect anything. It returns anyway. Quiet. Stubborn. Refusing to fully die. That is me, my child. Keeping a promise warm inside you, long before I reveal it outside of you. Cole told me once, he'd stopped expecting anything real after so many hard years on the job. But the hope kept returning anyway, quietly, on his drives home from work. He didn't manufacture that hope, my child. I did. Let it rise this time. Sign 4, the unexpected name. Fourth sign, a name, a face, a feeling, that visits your mind without permission. I place people in your thoughts before I place them in your life. So your spirit will recognize them instantly, the moment they finally stand in front of you. If someone keeps returning to your mind lately, uninvited, that is not your imagination, my child. That is preparation. Sophie noticed Cole's name crossing her mind, oddly, days before their rotations ever overlapped. She dismissed it at first, the way you might be tempted to dismiss it now. Don't dismiss it, my child. Notice it, at the very least. Sign 5, the courage to show up. There is a fifth sign, and it matters more than most people realize. A small, unexplained courage, rising in you lately. The courage to walk into a room you'd normally avoid. The courage to stay 10 more minutes, instead of leaving early. Ethan almost stayed in his car that night. Something nudged him to walk in anyway. If you've felt that nudge lately, towards something small and uncomfortable, follow it, my child. I am not asking for a leap. Only a small, brave step. This was never random. My child, understand something clearly. You did not open this video by accident. Of everything competing for your attention today, you are here. On Hidden Blessing Message. Still with me, this far into the message. I brought Ethan to that support group. I brought Renee to that youth team practice. I brought Dana to that hospital chapel, and Samuel to that difficult case beside her. I brought Grace to that quiet classroom, and Tomas to that hallway outside it. I brought Cole to that station kitchen, and Sophie to that overlapping rotation. I brought you to this exact video today. None of it was random. Not one piece of it. Every appointment I have ever set has led somewhere specific. This one is no different, my child. Trust that, even without seeing where it leads yet. How to prepare your heart. Now let me tell you how to prepare, because this requires your participation, not just your patience. Release what did not work before. Every wrong ending taught you something real. Stop chasing what has already walked away. Sometimes rejection is me, redirecting you towards something larger. Start becoming who you'd want to meet. Not for approval. For your own wholeness. Guard your hope like it's precious, because it is. The real enemy of your breakthrough is not rejection. It is despair, whispering, "Stop believing," right before the answer shows up. Pray honestly, the way Ethan did on watch. The way Renee did after her kids fell asleep. Not polished prayers. True ones. Release the guilt too, if you carry any, the guilt of wanting this so much. Dana felt guilty, for years, for wanting both a calling and a companion. She thought she had to choose. She didn't. Neither do you, my child. Set the guilt down. Let your hands be empty, so they're ready to hold what's coming. Cole carried guilt too, for years, believing the job had to come before anything else in his life. He learned, slowly, that making room for love didn't mean abandoning his calling. It meant finally trusting that both could exist together. The same is true for you, my child, whatever you believe you have to sacrifice to receive this. You likely don't have to sacrifice what you think you do. Speak like someone who already knows. Stop saying, "If love ever finds me." Start saying, "When it arrives, I will already be ready." Your words are seeds, my child. Every fearful word waters the wrong garden. Speak like someone who has already seen the ending. Because I have. And I promise you, it is good. Practice believing before you see proof. That is what faith actually is. Grace stopped saying, "I'm just the woman who stays late alone." She started saying, "I'm the woman who stays, and one day, someone will stay with me." That shift in her words prepared her to notice Tomas, on an ordinary evening she almost rushed through. Watch your words this week, my child. They are preparing ground you will one day stand on. The prayer becomes a meeting. Remember the prayer I told you about, at the very beginning? The one prayed with your face in mind, though they don't know your name yet? I don't tell you this to entertain you. I tell you so you'll be watching, when the ordinary moment finally arrives. Maybe it looks like a support group you almost skip, like Ethan's. Maybe a youth practice you show up to anyway, like Renee's. Maybe a chapel you sit in exhausted, like Dana's. Maybe a quiet classroom you stay in late, like Grace's. I won't tell you the exact shape it will take. I want you watching, not searching for one specific scenario. It will feel ordinary in the moment. And extraordinary looking back. That has always been my pattern, my child. I am not changing it now. Ethan almost stayed in his car that evening. Notice how close he came to missing it entirely. I am not telling you this to frighten you. I am telling you so you'll show up, even tired, even distracted, even unsure it matters. Especially then, my child. A letter, just for you. Before the blessing, let me write you something smaller, just between us. Something I want you to read slowly, not skim past on your way to the ending. If no one has told you lately, let me be the one who does. You are not too much. You are not too late. You are not the exception to every promise. You've watched others receive. I know the nights felt long. I know the silence felt like absence, not preparation. But I was writing, my child. Every single night. A story with your name at the center of it. Not a side character. The center. Receive that, even more than anything else in this message. I know it's tempting to read this letter, and immediately think of someone else it fits better than you. Don't do that, my child. This letter is not generic. I wrote it knowing exactly who would be watching, at exactly this hour, on exactly this day. That is you. Not a coincidence. Not a general audience. You. The urgent blessing and outro. Now, my child, I want to speak directly over you, urgently, in this exact moment. I release the prayer being prayed for you, into full, visible manifestation. Not one day early. Not one day late. I release peace over your waiting season, so it feels sacred, not endless. I release healing over every wound the wrong people left behind. I release courage over the ordinary moment you're about to face. So you do not let it pass you by. I release over you the same ending I gave Ethan. The same ending I gave Renee. The same ending I gave Dana, after years of feeling too busy for love. The same ending I gave Grace, after years of simply staying alone. The same ending I gave Cole, after years of bracing for something to go wrong. The same ending I gave Isabel, after years of believing love and calling couldn't coexist. Not because their story is yours, but because the same God who wrote theirs, is writing yours right now, urgently, today. I release forgiveness over any guilt you carry, for wanting this so badly. I release restoration over every year that felt wasted while you waited. I release the courage to show up, even on the tired days. Even on the ordinary days. Especially then. I release small, brave choices into your hands, starting today. The room you almost avoid. The conversation you almost skip. The message you almost don't answer. I am already moving inside those small moments, my child. Trust them when they come. I have not forgotten you, my child. Someone is praying for you at this exact moment, and I wanted you to know it before the day went any further. If this message stirred something in you, do 3 things right now. Type "I receive this" in the comments below. Not just for me, my child. For everyone else scrolling past today, exactly the way you almost did. Someone needs to see your faith, before they find their own. Like this video, as your own urgent declaration. Not because it helps a number somewhere. Because it marks this moment, as the moment you chose to believe again. Share it with someone still waiting quietly, the way you once were. Maybe a sibling. Maybe a friend who stopped talking about love years ago. Maybe someone you don't even know is struggling, the way you have been. You may never know whose whispered prayer this reaches tonight. Subscribe to Hidden Blessing Message, because I am not finished speaking to you. There are more messages coming, season after season. More stories like Ethan's. Like Renee's. Like Dana's. Like Grace's. Like Cole's. Like Isabel's. Until every prayer prayed for your life becomes something you can hold. My child. Your story is not over. It has barely begun. I will see you in the next message. One last thing, before you go, my child. Whatever you're carrying into tomorrow, carry it a little lighter now, knowing what you know. Someone prayed for you today. I heard it. And I am already moving. That is enough for tonight. Rest in it.